Feeding the bone orchard, I stood at the edge of my childhood home, the once familiar silhouette now a ghostly shell of its former self. The porch sagged under the weight of time and disdain, a perfect metaphor for the family that had once thrived within its walls. It was a house of laughter and warmth, now haunted by the echoes of my past, mocking laughter, to be precise. They had called me insane, delusional, a disgrace to the family name. But I had returned, not as the naive child they had scorned, but as a harbinger of truths they were not ready to face. "Why do you waste your life on those dead plants?" my father had sneered, his face twisted with contempt when I first mentioned thanatobotany. "You'll never amount to anything. You'll lose your mind." His words had carved deep into my soul, but I had pressed on, driven by a darkness that clung to me like a second skin. Years had passed since I was disbarred for exposing evidence that implicated powerful figures in a mob case. The very forces I had sought to bring to light had turned their fury on me, leaving me with nothing but the remnants of my shattered career. In my solitude, I had delved into the underbelly of death itself, tracing roots that fed on the remnants of humanity, uncovering the secrets buried beneath the soil. I had unearthed horrors that would make even the bravest tremble, but my work had transformed me. I was no longer the object of ridicule. I was a researcher, revered and feared in circles that whispered my name like a cursed incantation. The world had shifted beneath my feet, but these walls remained stubbornly unchanged. As I stepped inside, the air thickened with an unshakable tension, a palpable dread that settled in my bones. My mother stood in the kitchen, her hands trembling as she stirred a pot of something that had long lost its flavor. Her eyes widened at the sight of me, a mixture of surprise and shame flaring in her expression. They had always been the ones to shake their heads, to dismiss my obsession as unhealthy. But now, I could feel the weight of my knowledge pressing down on her, the silent accusation. "Why are you back?" she whispered, her voice cracking like the porcelain dishes in the cupboard. "You were supposed to leave all this behind." "Mom," I said, my voice steady but laced with an underlying tension. "I didn't come back to relive the past. I came to show you what I've discovered." The rest of my family gathered, their faces etched with disbelief. My brother, once an ally, now stood as a judge, arms crossed over his chest, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "What, did you come to sell us your ridiculous theories about plants and death? You know that's not real science, right?" I took a breath, the memories of their scorn flooding back. But I was no longer the wounded child seeking validation. I was a vessel of truth, and the truth was heavy. "The plants, they're not just plants," I began, my voice rising with urgency. "They're witnesses to crimes beyond our comprehension. They thrive in graveyards, in sites of violence and despair. They absorb the energy of death itself. I've documented cases where they reveal secrets, hidden truths that the living refuse to acknowledge." Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a moment before they returned. I glanced outside, and my heart sank. The trees lining our property appeared twisted, gnarled, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers toward the sky. "Do you see them?" I asked, urgency clawing at my throat. "These trees, these aren't just trees. They're feeding on something deeper, something the world has ignored. They know what lies beneath the soil. They know what we've buried." My voice trembled with the weight of what I had discovered. The truth had shifted and twisted, revealing horrors that now threatened to consume me. "Stop it," my brother snapped, but his bravado faltered as the shadows in the room deepened. "You're scaring Mom." But I pressed on, feeling the pull of something darker, something hungry that lurked just beyond the threshold of our understanding. "You need to understand. It's real. I've seen." A loud thud interrupted me, echoing from the back of the house. The air grew thick with an oppressive energy, and the temperature dropped. The walls seemed to groan under the weight of unseen eyes, and I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through me. "Stay here," I commanded, moving toward the source of the sound. My family's protests faded behind me, muffled by the growing sense of dread that enveloped the house. As I reached the back door, I swung it open, revealing the garden I had once played in as a child. The ground was alive, pulsating with a dark energy. The flowers, once vibrant, now bloomed grotesquely, their petals dripping with a viscous dark liquid. I knelt, my heart racing as I reached out to touch the soil. It was warm, almost breathing, and I felt a connection, a whispering pull that beckoned me deeper. "Look!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the stillness. "This is what I've been trying to tell you." My family emerged behind me, their faces pale as they witnessed the transformation of the familiar garden into a grotesque spectacle. The flowers writhed as if animated by some unseen force, and I could see the roots, thick and dark, weaving through the earth like serpents. "What is this?" my mother gasped, her hands trembling as she clutched my father's arm. "This," I said, my voice a low, reverent whisper, "is the truth you refuse to see." Suddenly, the ground erupted. A surge of dark, twisted roots breaking free from the soil, reaching out like fingers to grasp at the air. The plants were no longer just plants. They were conduits of the past, feeding on the remnants of forgotten lives. My family screamed, their voices filled with terror as the roots writhed and coiled around their feet. I stood frozen, watching the horror unfold, knowing that this was the consequence of their disbelief. The very thing they had mocked had come to claim them, to show them the truth they had denied. As the roots pulled them down, I felt a sense of calm wash over me, a vindication born not just of success, but of surviving what others could never face. I had returned not for redemption, but to expose the darkness that thrived beneath the surface. "I told you," I whispered, the words hanging heavy in the air. "You should have believed me." In that moment, as the shadows consumed my family, I understood the cost of their ridicule. I had become a guardian of the hidden truths, a witness to the horrors that lay beneath. And as I stepped back, allowing the darkness to envelop them, I felt a chilling sense of resolution. I was no longer the child they had scorned. I was the keeper of secrets, and I would carry the weight of their disbelief with me, a haunting reminder of the price of ignorance.